What's going on, everyone? Vampyr Gaming here, and today we're talking about the structure decks. The new ones, ST26 and SD27, which is part of, I believe it's ST23 to ST28. It seems as though they may release two over the next couple days, two at a time until we get all six. But they released the full card list. It is on the One Piece card game set. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the set list. So you'll see all the cards you get in the structure deck. And then we will also be talking about the cards themselves. I will rate all of the cards on how good they are. We will also talk about the leaders that are also getting a buff from these cards. As we know, whenever a card is released, it usually impacts other leaders as well. And we have quite a few great things in here, but stay to the end and throughout the video, because we're also going to talk about some interesting combos throughout. I was going to do deck lists. Let me know if you'd still like to see deck lists. I think we'll start cooking those pretty soon. But I was going to include deck lists as well, but I definitely wanted to include something that kind of gets you thinking about like what these new cards can do and just kind of the things that they can impact. And so there'll be some combos kind of without, just like a little sprinkle, a little treat for those who are still watching. If you're new to the channel, I'm Vampyr Gaming, and I make One Piece content like this, and then also for the competitive player to help elevate your game and get better. So if that interests you, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a lot. Do me a favor, just click that. And then let's go ahead and jump into these decks. So first off, we're going to talk about ST26, which is the PBN Luffy, purple-black Luffy. This leader is incredibly hyped. A lot of people are really excited, and this leader has a really great effect. For those unfamiliar, whenever you -2 or more Dawn, you can gain one as active and one as rested. So if you use like ramp, you can go ahead and just minus, and then like if it's -2 to ramp one, then it's really a true ramp one, but you get 2 active Dawn, things like that. But yeah, so we have the set list. We, of course, here's the leader. The leader looks beautiful. I think this is one of the best looking leaders that they've ever made. It's just dynamic. It's beautiful. The color combination, just everything about it from an artistic standpoint, I love. You can see here just some of the new cards we're getting for Nosuke. So one thing I just kind of want to touch on too is they're reprinting Gum Gum Giant. And typically when Bandai reprints things, remember they reprinted Law and then they banned Jinbei, means it's not going to get touched. So it looks like we got 10 more years of Gum Gum Giant, 10 more years. So do with that what you will. Interesting enough, they did include one singular black card into it, and it was a vanilla. So shout out Bandai. This made 0 sense. But yeah, so usually they don't. Usually they just do like one color, but it's interesting to think that they are willing to reprint both colors in these decks. It is possible we see some others with more support, but it seems like they just went mono purple, which of course buffs every single purple Luffy, and there's a lot of them. So let's go ahead and jump into these cards. So first off, we're talking about like the SRs. We've got this Monkey D. Luffy, and I think this card is incredible. It's an incredible edible. So it's a 6 cost, 7,000 power. On play or on attack, so it's pretty much your own Eustace Captain Kidd, but better. Dawn -2 if your leader has multicolored. If your leader is multicolored and your opponent has 5 or more Dawn on their field, which if you're playing this, they should, your Straw Hat Crew type leader's power becomes a base of 7,000 into your opponent's next in phase. So this pretty much just means 7k leaders. So you can chain these in the late game just to ensure that he sticks around, but also good to know when you use your leader ability with this, you're going to get 1 back. So he's really a 5 cost, and you can leave 1 up for Giant, things like that. And then he continually enables you to -2 every turn to be able to ramp 1 again for Giant. This card is incredibly powerful, no matter how you look at it. Because again, you can pretty much, if this sticks and you're at 10, you can still play all 10 and then still be able to hold up a Giant. So it enables so much more. So, big fan of this card. It also, of course, buffs any Straw Hat characters. So, we have Sanji on the horizon, and then, of course, we have Nico, Robin as well. So, both of those are going to be able to take benefit from this. But, yeah, let me know. You guys a fan of this card? I think this card is phenomenal. and it's huge. It also is going to help against the green-purple, so you can be a 7k to their 6k leader, and it's going to make it harder for them to attempt lethal on you because you're a 4-life leader. I get this card. This card's 11 out of 10. This card is fantastic. And then we look at the other SR, Nico Robin. So this card is also fantastic, just out the get-go. It's a 2K counter, so huge, and it's a 3/4. It's a So it can swing if it needs to. And then on play, Don -2, you may return specified cards from your deck to your Don deck, and then of course add up to 1 Don from your Don deck and set it as active. So this is huge for Peanut Butter and Luffy. It's going to allow you to be way more consistent. Zoro was their 3 ramp, the one that goes -2. Now you have a new -2 because the other Zoro that swings is kind of delayed and really hard to stick around still. But this kind of replaces that, but it also gives you another searchable 2K, and you can use this, and it still is a body as well. So it's going to essentially accomplish what Zoro is doing with these same stat lines, but being a 2K, and you're going to get 2 Dawn active to work with because of the leader effect. So this is completely and solely like a benefit to the Peanut Butter and Luffy, which is so great. PB and Luffy. This card is phenomenal. I give this card 10 out of 10. This was so well designed. It helps with the consistency aspect. So now they can continually get that ramp. You go first, you hit this, you go 4, you go 6, you play the Luffy, boom, you're back, you go 8, right? Like, it's going to create so many good curves. Huge fan of this card. And then we have Soba Mask. Because Soba Mask, the other Sanji, I always called him Soba Mask. Like, people say Sanji, it just doesn't click with me. So I'm so glad they made a Soba Mask because I think that is just hilarious. I love Soba Mask. Okay, but this card is cracked. Every version of Sanji in the raid suit is just busted, okay? So he's a 7-cost 9, but he likes to cheat. If you have a Sangoro or a Sanji character with a base of 7,000 power or more, give this character in your hand -5 cost. So he's a 2 cost. Yeah, the blocker's a 3 cost. You have a 9k 2 cost. But on play, return all of your Sangoro and Sanji characters to the owner's hand. Well, guess what? Guess who turns those off? Blackbeard. So you could spam these if Blackbeard ever turned their ability off. So the best there's a Sangoro that is a 6/8. So you could, if they did that on you and you have 10 Dawn, you could go Sangoro and then play 2 of these. So you just played an 8k, 9k, 9k against Teach. What's he gonna do? Cry about it? So this is absolutely phenomenal in that, right? And then in regular aspects as well, I think it has its merits because it allows you to kind of infinite cycle, and we'll talk about that. But this creates a lot of different combo potential by returning the card to you and then also establishing a huge threat. So let's talk about it. So first thing that comes to my mind, on 7, you play this Sanji, you minus, you do your effect, you're at 6 Dawn, you go 8, you ramp 1, this purple Luffy, you ramp 1, you play this, you play Sangoro, and then you bounce this Sanji, and then you play the 1, and so you just had a 19 Dawn turn. So you can play this into this instead of just playing this and then getting the Sangoro move, but then you play this, and a bigger threat, assuming this sticks. This is all on the grounds that this sticks, but it's going to be a monstrous combo if it does, and it's going to be incredibly hard to answer everything. Dang near impossible. So like Lucci is crying in the streets. They probably remove this, but in the event that they do not or aren't able to and this body gets to stick, you're really going a distance. So just something to keep in mind. That was one of the first things. Then also, of course, the infinite swing Kiyomi. You just go, so there's this too. We'll talk about this in a second too. But I thought this was just kind of funny. We'll have it on bigger on the next slide. But this is another infinite combo. But, so let's talk about, so you play this on 7, then you play this. Or if you're on 9, you play this swing, you play him, bounce him, you get him back. And you can just continually answer one blocker and disrespect that blocker, hit face or whatever. But it continually allows you, you're going to return combo to your hand, and you're going to go ahead and boom, play this 9, boom, play this, keep playing this. You can just cycle this infinitely, putting pressure on. And it's really just that. So if you just need like a guarantee, you pretty much can guarantee yourself a swing every turn with this combo, which is pretty cool. And then there is just this. So it's how to infinite 9 costs. It does require a lot of cards, so I doubt it sees that level of play, but it is quite possible because you can bounce this Sanji to continually use it, which is a big thing in blue purple Luffy. But so you can have Eustace Captain Kid, then you go and play Sanji into Lin. Lin is going to minus you 1, then you're going to heal your life, tuck whatever, but then you get that second Dawn. You can play this, bounce this, and then you get to keep this, but you still have 2 9s established, which is kind of gross. Very hard in execution wise, but very cool in thought, and there's probably something here. Because the big thing is you just need to play the Sanji, so then boom, you pretty much just, it's like the same thing. So a lot of opportunity here. And then, yeah, so then we have this, which is also really interesting. So these are just like the regular cards. So there's 5 in total. This is the 3rd card. We've got Tony Chopper, 4th card. Tony Chopper, he's a purple character, 3/4, and he's a blocker. But this is where he's super relevant. Is this card is a tech for the mirror and also for Bonnie. Because on play, you can don -2 and then rest up to one of your opponent's don cards or a character with a cost of 1 or less. But we're taking that don. So, and in PB and Luffy, you get the minus, gain 1 active. So he really only costs 2. So you get to pay 2, rest that don. So you can rest that Gum Gum Giant. You can rest that whatever green event they have now. That's OP12. Or what's the card I'm thinking of? You rest the Gum Gum Giant. You rest their Bonnie leader ability. Yeah, and just anything, you just take that away. Red Hawk, Divine Departure. So this card is actually incredibly playable. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's matchup dependent, but it definitely has its place, and it's a new card in the toolbox. It's a little bit more expensive in other decks, but really good in PB and Luffy. And again, you get a blocker along with that body, so you can push lethal but also establish a blocker, which is really cool. It's essentially, it's another Uso Hachi, and the fact that it does don instead of a blocker. And then we have General Frankie. General Frankie is the last card. I think this is the least overwhelmed. This is the least exciting card. Biggest thing is just because when I think of an 8/10, I think Kaido. But he's an 8/10 Straw Hat, and I love the Iron General. But you get the -2, go up to 2 of your opponent's characters, -2,000 power during this turn. It is only on play, and that's really the only reason I don't like it. You have the Brook, which is just a little bit better, in my opinion, compared to this. But this, of course, is really good against like green, or if you need to like control the board, and it is a huge body, so it has that going for him. But it's really just like, I wish it was like on play or when attacking. I feel like if it was when attacking, because this body has to stick, and if you play this, your opponent's probably going to try to remove it. So it's that for me. I wish it could continually do this because it is really good in thought. But paying 8 just to -2,000 to 2, which is really like 4 free Dawn, but it really depends. Really depends, but I think it could have a place. But Pearl doesn't do any like cost removal or like power removal. So I give this card a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's too great. And then so let's talk about the decks buffed. So of course, obviously it's going to be Luffy. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but again, you know, you give access to RP Luffy, being able to minus, go up to 7, but then also being able to turn on your leader ability to ramp 1 for free is still incredibly relevant, because as long as you can do any form of minus, you can spend 10 and actually have 11 Dawn turns, and the other Luffy does allow that while giving you a slight buff. With that buff, you can still have things like Eustace and then also Newgate, so it is possible to be a 10k leader in the perfect storm. Do you need that? Absolutely not. But it is completely doable, which is just a menace. And it could actually, I mean, you have 2 Eustace, you could go 11k leader. Like it just increases the maximum potential for just a silly leader, but that just feels win more. Purple Luffy, we talked about Purple Luffy, being able to make him a 7k as well in late game. If you're just minusing 2 with the leader, you're not really losing any Dawn economy, so in late game it's kind of like free. But then we also, of course, get the potential for the Soba Mask loop and Soba Mask plays, being able to play out cheap bodies, partner with Luffy Taro. One thing to note, you cannot use Sanji Pudding. Sanji Pudding does not work for Soba Mask. Sanji Pudding, say it with me, chat. Sanji Pudding does not work for Soba Mask, but it's still an incredibly good card. And then we, of course, have Snake Man. So this one, of course, we talked about the infinite loop, but you also can make him a 7k should you desire. You do have to be super mindful of the 8 requirement, but say you play Sanji into the 1, you become a 7, you -2. Like, there is opportunity there and become just a slightly more powerful leader. You also get to play the chopper for the mirrors. You can turn off that Gum Gum Giant when pushing for lethal, things like that. So absolutely huge. You know, you essentially get rid of it for 3 Dawn versus like the potential 4 or 5 you need to commit when swinging, and gives you just a little bit more. So yep. And then it really, a lot of, there's some couple of generic ones too, which will buff like any purple deck, but I think these are the 3 that we could potentially see the most impact in. Now, let's talk about Smelly Beard. ST stands for Stank. Stank 26. Blackbeard here. A really cool deck overall. Honestly, some of these cards are actually insane. It makes sense. Bandai's favorite. So we look here. The leader Really nice art here as well. The artist, I believe they used the same artist for all of them, and they really just popped off labor of love when they did this. But of course, we see Burgess, so unlikely he gets banned. We see Shiryu, Van Auger, Doc Q, pretty much literally every card that exists to this point that is an SR. And then, of course, Bandai loves to put in vanillas. A lot less this time, though, except for their favorite 412 vanilla that can't be removed. You've got San Juan Wolf, Alvazo, Avalo Pizarro, that guy, Devon, Kuzan, a new Wolf, and then this new Marshall D. Teach. So this Marshall D. Teach is absolutely disgusting. So of course we have Marshall D. Teach Black. So we're gonna spend a moment talking about this one too, because I think it's incredibly important and impactful. So activate main. You may rest this character. KO up to one character. Read that again with me. KO up to one character with a cost of 3 or less. One character. Not your opponent's character. That is incredibly crucial. On KO, add up to one black card from your trash to your hand. Blackbeard effect, add Blackbeard. That's pretty good. Now imagine if we had Gecko Moria. So this card can KO your characters, so you have to answer it to some respect. Oh, I'll add back Gecko Moria? Huh. That would make my tummy hurt. So this card is absolutely disgusting when you put it into that perspective. Oh, I KO your Teach, which is, imagine if I KO Jack and you got a Gecko. So it makes the value proposition of this staying on board, pending on your trash, incredibly valuable. You can add back Rebecca. Rebecca can add back this. A lot of different things here. And you can KO your own characters. So like back in the day, you could have put a brand new that we left on the board because we didn't want you to be able to brand new Kuzan, and you could brand new Kuzan. Like there's a lot of different things, and let's just talk about it just a little bit more. So you can do your, in Blackbeard specifically, you can KO Doc Q. So typically I'll leave Doc Q on the board because I don't want you to draw. So say you don't have the minus, or you don't even want to use the minus to potentially remove something on my board. You just play this and you get the draw card. That's incredibly good. And you, of course, have the new Avalo Pizarro. So this is kind of spoilers because we'll talk about him. But it is relevant. He's on KO, draw one card. So you could use his effect. I'm not going to talk about it yet. But you can use his effect, KO him, draw a card. Or, of course, you leave it on the board for your opponent to deal with. They swing into it, you draw a card. So it really just depends on what you need in the moment. So you can either force it or let your opponent do it. Pretty cool stuff. But yeah, that goes for anything. You can't really minus your own cards. But there's a full suite, and we'll talk more on this card too at the end. So stay tuned to the end because there's another deck that I think is going to benefit an incredible amount on that nobody's thinking about, or at least not talking about. Kuzan. So this card is busted. Bandai has never made a bad Kuzan. 6/6, 1k counter. He's a blocker, and then on KO play up to one Blackbeard Pirates type card with a cost of 5 or less from your trash rested. Huh. Kuzan, I'll block, play Kuzan, my turn, I'll draw, Kuzan ability, or Kuzan swing, Kuzan ability, tribute him, draw a card, play Burgess. That's pretty disgusting. And then you can just swing all day with this too, because they're not going to KO it, because what this card brings back is even worse. And then you just leave it standing. And then because he's standing, then you have blockers in the end game. This card is absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. And it gives them they just gained a little bit more late game, right? With this Teach and this Kuzan, you're able to play the late game. You're able to play like these larger bodies. Because typically before they would just be like, oh, I'll just double Burgess. Or I'll Burgess play removal. Now they have actual bodies and threats to establish in the mid game. And I think that's incredibly impactful. So I think these two cards are just absolutely busted. Both these cards, 10 out of 10, 12 out of 10. 12 out of 10. These cards are insane. And then, of course, we have San Juan Wolf. If your leader is Blackbeard, he gains blocker and +1 cost for every 4 cards in your trash. So he becomes incredibly high cost. This card would be so good in bait Luffy, but he goes incredibly high cost, and he's a blocker. So it's really hard to remove in that, right? And anything that does cost removal, so anything that isn't red. And then on play, you trash 1 card from your hand, which is crazy, the fact that they even printed that, because you're just not going to play this in any other character, in any other deck. You're just not going to play it. Unless if, like, you know, they could have this because they plan to release, like, a Kuzan. I could see them making another Kuzan Blackbeard leader, so. They're just setting themselves up with this, so that way it's harder to play. But in Teach, it's free. So Teach just gains more blockers, which I think is really good. I give this card 6 out of 10 because it's a blocker, but I don't think it has room in the deck. And then Katarina Devon. 1 cost, 1k. 2k counter. Activate main, you may trash this character. If your leader is a Blackbeard Pirates type, I give it to one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. So you can kind of like, I usually call it cash advance, but like you can like Don advance your character. So you play this, and then because it has on KO draw 1 card, if they answer, you stick with the draw card, so you're never losing card economy by playing this out. And then it's only playable in Blackbeard leader. So it's really good. And it's also a new 2K, so Shiryu I felt like really just doesn't have a place anymore because you play this because it is Dawn minus, and now you have new removal as well. So I think this makes its way in place of Shiryu, possibly paving the way for them to play more 2Ks, which is the only weakness in that deck right now. So TBD, but so far the Teach cards are looking insane. And then of course we'll talk about the last one. We already kind of talked about him, but Avalo Pizarro. It's a 1 cost 1k, and then activate main, you may rest your full OLED card, one of your full OLED cards, which means there could also be something that's not a stage. If your leader is Blackbeard Pirates, this character gains plus 4,000 during this turn. Now, of course, you want to be using your leader to cycle, or you want to be using your stage to cycle, but should you need to use this, you absolutely can, and then get a 5k swing, and then again, you can just play this out, use your own Teach, KO it, or, like, you know, use this, use full OLED, swing with this, and then KO it. So a lot of potential here. Lot of potential here. But yeah, so this card can be incredibly aggressive. It's also going to be really good in the mirror because it gives you an extra swing. So this could be relevant. And then let's talk about decks buffed. So Monkey D. Luffy, Bait Luffy. You, of course, get to attach 1, and then all your characters have 1 cost. So the Blackbeard is going to become an 8 cost, and it's essentially like another Jack. But it allows you to find any card that you need when he's KO'd, or fetch Jack, or fetch himself. So you can continually guarantee to have an 8 cost, which I think is big. And then, of course, the removal aspect as well. So huge fan of that in the Bait Luffy or ST14 Luffy deck. And then, of course, like Sanji's already been making moves as well, but both also because of PB and Luffy, but also like this deck and the potential there. Lucci, again, you know, we're giving them, there's 2 cards that are just pretty generic overall and can be used. But essentially, like the Blackbeard, you know, you were getting another Jack, and it helps out in the battle against Blackbeard because then you can fetch any card. So you can fetch a Kaido. You can fetch anything. So it can be super impactful. So I think that, of course, helps Rob Lucci as well. And then Gecko Moria. I think Gecko Moria is a sleeper that gets buffed. And you're probably wondering why. So again, it's tough to say how good this is. But if you look at this, again, this Marshall D. Teach. We have him. You can rest him, KO a character with 3 or less. So if you're not familiar with Gecko Moria, you have this stage where you can pay 1, you rest the stage, then you can play any 2-cost Thriller Bark from your trash rested. And so you can bring back cards like Kumasi, which is kind of like your own Burgess, but worse. And so he gains plus 1,000 power. So you can load him up, though, by bringing back Terraran on play, and then on KO, trash the top 3 cards of your deck. And then Anupe, if your leader has Thriller Bark, draw 2, and then discard 2. So these bodies can swing for 1, but then 2, you can bring these out, you can Teach, rest, KO, and boom, you just trash 6. That's an extra 1,000 power to Kumasi. Boom, you did it again. That's an extra 1,000 power to Kumasi. And then you, of course, are leader abilitying, so you can really load up your trash, even potentially start like an infinite loop because you're restacking the bottom of your trash and just feeding yourself exactly what you want for the rest of the game. But yeah, I think like you can filter for cards you want, draw 2, you know, if you have bricks, you can bring it back Anupe, draw 2, trash 2, rest Teach, draw 2, trash 2, and you just drew 4 cards. You just drew 4 cards, found 4 new cards. And then, of course, again, Teach can fetch anything back. And then again, you know, you're playing these Kumasis. You can be like, boom, boom, boom. Dawn attached too. They're all swinging infinity. So, like, you can really spit out a bunch of these And this could be, you know, if we go back to a Blackbeard meta, I think this could be relatively decent. You don't get your on-plays, but you still get your KOs, but then you also have this, and you can spit out 3 of these in one turn. So yeah, let me know what you all think in the comments below. Was this video insightful? Would you like to see more? And then, of course, if you found this content of value, if you just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you all in the next one.